you, sir, after this. You're obviously there in the thick of it as well. How do you make the logistical decisions? Do you just shoot off stuff? Obviously you prepare where you're going to be, but do you just keep shooting and then get it all at home?
This is a key question.
Yeah.
It is. All the logistics is, it's another case, but Klaus Erik has a very special ability to follow all the time with the camera, not to lose, the decisive moment. And you see in the introduction here, you see the meeting.
There's a NATO meeting headed by, there's a sort of crisis meeting German at the beginning with the German general.
Yes.
And it's a meeting that was supposed to last 2 hours, and it lasted about, I think 4.5 hours or something. And you're crammed into this room with like 60 other people, and you're standing like this. And I positioned myself to the general like. Expecting to be thrown out at any moment.
Yeah, because it was claustrophobic for us. So, and I think you really achieved that.
That's his ability to work. Yeah. And then on the logistic side,
the minute or minute and a half you see up on the screen is like, for me, it's the essential, or the sum up of the whole meeting, the whole 4.5 hours. But in order to get those few minutes, you have to actually roll for 4.5 hours. So I just kept rolling for 4.5 hours.
I think we can say we've produced 1 to 400 or something.
Yeah.
It's like
1 to 400.
Yeah.
So how many hours do you shoot altogether?
We haven't measured actually, but we have
some hard disks that are.
Well, I think we have 12 terabytes of storage at the moment. But the logistics, you asked about the logistics, and we had, because this is an embedded situation. So things is like you don't want to lose track when you're out in the field for weeks or several days. So we always carried a satellite phone, so that we spoke every day, even if there wasn't any special situation. We spoke from wherever he was, and
it's possible to communicate.
So Klaus Erik was talking about the choices he'd made, the choices who was possible to make for the next 24 hours, and then we discussed this. And I think that's an important thing, to have that kind of communication to break the embeddedness or whatever is the situation.
You get very lonely out there from time to time.
I was going to say, you lead me to my next point. How big is the crew? Because it looks really small, because you couldn't be in those places with many people, could you?
I've shot about 70% of this myself. So, and the rest is we had 2 older, but it was always, the crews were always one person with a camera.
Is sound on the camera?
Yeah.
Wow.
Can I ask you a tiny example? The young boy picking up the shells, putting them, and then he walks off, and then you have the longer shot of him going over. How can you manage to get such a well-matched shots without too lots? Because it looks that looks like dramatic composure. It's so
well, I work quickly. No, I mean actually I remember that because I was filming him. It was early morning, and he was. I saw this guy from a distance, or this boy from a distance, gathering the shells, and he spent a lot of time gathering those shells. So I had plenty of time to position myself. In order for him to, pick the whole thing up and then walk out straight.
It's like it's done with 2 cameras, no?
But it's just that, well, a lot of time. I mean, all I need is, a few seconds.
You must be
actually.
very fast on your feet.
Yeah, I'm.
It looks fit.
Well,
these Norwegians,
Yeah, but I mean, you sort of, you grow with the territory, so to speak, because I sort of found my composure after, some weeks, months. And actually, this was shot. I think I've been in Afghanistan for about 8 weeks or something before I shot this scene. And then you sort of you get used to the territory in every.
And used to the feeling you might receive an incoming yourself at any moment.
It was not like you don't live with a constant threat of that. I mean, you get your moments. I had my moments when I felt slightly claustrophobic, especially sitting in that small vehicle and hearing about you might throw a hand grenade over such a wall. I was sitting beside him when they said that, you know. And it makes you think when you move further up the road. But that's only, you know, with me at least, just for a brief moment, and then I'm, you know, sort of back focusing. But because if you were going to be afraid all the time, then it would not be possible to do that. So you sort of, but you have your small moments, and then you slip back into normal again.
I get the impression that you when you went there, you didn't know exactly what you were going to film, and the fact that the Colonel, who's the most charismatic actor I've ever seen, but he's for real, Colonel Rene Soberg, you kind of indicated in something you emailed to me that that when you met him, you suddenly realised that he was the person that you needed to follow for this documentary. Is that how? Yeah,
well, you get a sort of hunch with people, and you had a hunch that he was, you know, he was kind of frank, and he got franker.
Yeah. What I love about love is a terrible word because it's a very harrowing situation, but you know, that was a character arc in the way that Hollywood describes character journey. We saw his naive optimism falter into despair in its beautifully told story, just from a human point of view, besides obviously the macrocosm of everything else that's going around, you know.
Because you have that, you know, you connect emotionally to it as well, and because it's you know, Afghanistan is complex, and it's and you know you have all these meetings and you have all this, and to make that, you know, understandable for people, really complex situations, and we have no commentary on this. There's no narrative. Except, you know, you use a few info as a crutch, a crutch here and there. But otherwise, it's told.
I love that technique of not having a narrator.
But other than that, there is also, as you say, there is a chance of you don't know, you don't have a script, you haven't written this, but someone is trying to write it. Like the Colonel was also trying to write his own story better. If you take the election situation as an example. I was filming in the headquarters at that point, and we had another photographer out with the team with the ballot box, and we'd planned this in advance. We didn't know how the Colonel would put us, because our agreement was that we could film anything we'd like and take it back home and use it. They would choose where to put us or where we could go, with a security reason for saying yes or no. That was our agreement. Still we're embedded. And I think that the story behind the ballot box is actually that the Colonel wanted to show and wanted to get a success story, which actually failed, a success story of being the person or being the team that put the ballot box in the only Pashtun voting place. And he didn't succeed, and it became a good story for telling, you know, on a very small level, the problems occurring. But actually, so I think he planned that, to have a success in the film, which he didn't have. And then we got the story with, you know, the problems is sort of overwhelming him. So and that's part of his waking up also.
But this kind of, you know, the kind of storytelling, the follow-up to the election is when he meets the local or the chief of police. And you know, that's it, where he says, "Am I too direct now? Am I too direct?" And you have to, I mean, to film, you have to be, you have to be over alert when you go into a situation like that, because I knew that there was a thorn in the side from the colonel to the chief of police. So I go into that room with that in mind, but you know, with one camera, just to, you know, to catch the reaction to the interpreter. Am I too direct now? Yes, you are. You have to because I need that, you know, and that's you kind of, it's like running a marathon when you come out of a meeting like that. Because you have to, in order for it to function, you have to, you know, to be on multiple sides, so to speak, with one camera.
Excuse me, I want to ask how you get the possibility to go there until the through life of a commander. I don't know, it's like incredible how you arrived there. It's not so easy also not to get.
No one else seems to get permission.
There with the camera. I mean, you had to work a lot and to have a lot of
I think
responsibility.
Well, I mean, Norway's contribution to the Afghan story, so to speak, is not. It's quite different. Like Britain. Britain has a whole lot more people and more invested into Afghanistan than Norway have. So I think it has.
I think this is the central point, because the prestige is different. It's differently located. I think the prestige in the military service or the military forces in Great Britain and the United States is greater. The prestige of the military, they're sent there from Norway by the politicians, and the politicians has a different view on this. And I think the military actually accepted this closeness to make people see what
they're
is the reality
doing.
here.
What's the reality?
What's the outcome?
Whereas I think we're quite shrouded in secrecy, Britain and America. That's
But this is still an international document. I mean, this is the reality also for the other.
Yeah, the approach is more or less the same, and
to be in the middle of political meeting.
And
for me, it was a little bit like shocked, because it was like I didn't felt any stress on you with the camera. Normally, if you are doing a documentary like this, you never know how to do.
So shot on tripod.
We have to say. Well done to Norway government.
Yes.
No, but of course, no, but you get that international feeling because he's surrounded by Americans, he's surrounded by Afghans, he's surrounded by so you get that.
Is it time to bring in any of our other filmmakers as to what light you can shed creating fiction versus what they've done in creating non-fiction?
Well, I wouldn't know where to start with the documentary. I was quite how did you get involved to start with the project? Was it something someone gave to you, or did you have links or contacts to start with?
It was actually our idea. It was our idea, and we asked, and then we negotiated a contract, written contract, and a contract is good in a case like this because it solves future problems. Contracts should always work that way. It solves problems for you when you're in a situation. But actually, we started out with the colonel as one of the persons we wanted to follow, and we started out with several others also, which is not in the film because it didn't work on both levels. And Klaus Erik realized that our person is. You were a little frustrated in the start because there were so fucking many meetings. There were only these meetings.
But then,
you have to get some action.
I think the thing is that when you actually get to go with the colonel outside the camp or outside where the meetings are, and then you're also hands on the ground, but then you also get the bigger picture in the meetings. So I think that's personally I think that's why that's one of the reasons why the character works, because you're actually able to go into the villages and into the at the same time you follow the same character in meetings with both Afghans and international forces.
And it edits, and the story-wise it edits.
It's a masterclass in documentary making, if I may say. Speaking of documentaries, can I please ask Cathy, Macdonald and Felicity Monk to just come and join us up here, please? We talk about the difference, your experience in making a documentary. Not as dangerous, possibly, but
beautiful piece.
It was, wasn't it? I really enjoyed it. I'd like to give you some applause, by the way. Please come and sit down. It is a beautiful piece. It's very simply told, and the heart of the mother and of that boy just is so great. What can you tell us?
What would you like to know, I guess?
Where did you get the idea? Did you just read about it? Did you find it on Facebook and go, that's a great story, let's go and meet him?
We've read a magazine article about it. It was in a magazine that I think it only had one brand new magazine had launched. It was its first issue. I think it's still probably struggling for readership. So it was quite an obscure magazine at the time. And then we sort of read it and discussed the idea and thought there was something to it. And then basically in the course of the year, so that was probably in about February or March this year. And in the course of the year, it's kind of exploded in the media in terms of the real-life superhero movement.
And it really is a movement.
It is. There's apparently around about 50 people in the UK who identify.
Do you know, I have to admit something that maybe I shouldn't admit, but I actually emailed and said, now this is a documentary, isn't it? It's not a mockumentary. 'Cause it could have been, you know, but the acting was too good for it to not be real. Any questions? Anyone?
It doesn't really apply to your documentary, it's more to yours, but how do you stay so objective when you're seeing all this corruption, all this inaction, in distress? How do you not throw the camera down and just go build a road? Instead of, how do you stay so objective? Because you have no narration and you don't kind of influence the story. It's told by the image and the sound.
Well, I think the sum of it is not objective, but each scene maybe, you know, looked on with a little detachment that you just watched. But I think the sum of it is sort of a...
I think our editor, Jens Blom, he said once during this process, well, you have to protect your protagonist. You have to challenge your protagonist, but you also have to protect him. And this protection, I think, is kind of a key to it, because he... and I think you stand for that, because you could get so close to him that you could actually film this colonel in the shower. I mean, you could.
Why didn't we use that?
Yeah. You didn't see that, no. but it didn't.
That's for a more raunchier festival.
Yeah. But then again, when he saw this, he said we were a little worried, because we have made so many shortcuts in different ways of his story is, you know, for half a year. And he know that this situation wasn't actually that, but the story is true. The story underneath it is true, and he sort of, when we showed it to him, because we do that, so that they know what's coming, and he said, well, this is how it is, and I can see that you made choices, but he chose not to take that battle. He didn't want to battle our way of storytelling, because he could identify with the context and the message of it. Mm-hmm. And the message is kind of despair. We leave this place without having any actual footprint or whatever in human rights or whatever. And he could identify with that. And that way I felt that then Jens, the editor's word sort of came to me, that we have to protect him. Because we could have, we could have showed him making a fool of himself in some situations where he didn't understand the context actually. But that would have been a breach to the story. Mm-hmm. The story we chose to tell.
Yeah, it's sort of you have to. Yeah, I mean, it helps to have that identification with the colonel, but at the same time, you can also see his shortcomings, which are also part of the whole. The whole project's shortcomings.
And he has those. He has those breakdowns. And I'm sure that I felt you did the same thing. I mean, when you have to have sort of a empathy for your main character or your protagonist.
It's hard not to turn them into a caricature in a way. So you have to sort of step back.
Yeah, but you balance that fine. I mean, really.
And that's seeing the person, and seeing the person in mission, which is respect.
Yeah, respect for the protagonist in a documentary. I haven't thought of it that way, but that's wonderful. And you talked about it in the blurb you emailed to me. You said we wanted to make sure we weren't ridiculing him, because it would have been the easy and cheap way to go, wouldn't it?
The obvious.
Yeah, the obvious. And we were just touched in our hearts by this kind of this sad attempt, and touched in our hearts by his sad attempt, really, with all that he could bring to the table, but he couldn't change the meal. Just fantastic. any more questions? I'm sure we could sit here all night. In fact, we will, because we're all going for a drink. So we could continue Film Babble with the drink that we're going to buy you for sticking this out for the 2 days of the festival. So, any more last profound questions?
I was thinking, because I'm a documentary filmmaker from the beginning as well. I've done some documentaries for the Swedish television and been in this kind of also very sensitive, almost warlike zones. And when you have your camera, it's kind of, you become a new identity with your camera. And it's like, you can put yourself in a situation where you would not have, put yourself without the camera. Or do you experience that?
Yeah, I think I understand what you're getting at, but I think this kind of filmmaking also you also need to go places without the camera with the same character. And I also did. You have to you don't carry the camera with you all the time at all. You have to have some. But I mean, the reason you're there is to film. So I think to say it a little pompous maybe, but I mean, the camera sort of becomes an extension of your mind or arm or whatever, because you basically have it with you. But at the same time, it's very especially when I was in the camp and among the soldiers and also among Afghans, I put the camera down and just chatted and that's very important as well, to let it lie. But it's not easy.
I know myself, because I've been standing behind the camera and I said, okay, if I wouldn't have had the camera now, I would have been puking,
Yeah.
It's like,
but to give you an but when you look through the lens, I mean, you can sort of you can see things that are quite horrific, but when you see it through a viewfinder, you get that
safe distance.
Yeah. So camera's a strange thing. Yeah.
That should be my thesis. Camera's a strange thing.